You have 5 seconds to drop your gun. 5, 4.
Imagine stepping into your own front yard on a quiet Sunday, only for an SUV you've never seen before to roll up your driveway and strangers to march out with 2 fake cops, claiming they formed an HOA overnight and that you now have to live under their rules. Then the leader goes so far as to pull a gun on you to force obedience. That's exactly what happened to Amina Rowe, a black woman who was just minding her business. But what Trish Hafford didn't know was that she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Sunday afternoons in Crestview Ridge were usually the kind that made a person forget the world could ever be ugly. The sun was soft, the breeze was warm, and the neighborhood had that calm hum that only came after a long week. On the front lawn of a beige 2-story home, a black woman named Amina Rowe kneeled in the grass, tending to her rose bed. Gardening was her peace. She hummed under her breath, unaware that her quiet moment was about to be shattered forever. Inside the house, her husband, Jalen Rowe, a retired police officer, was in the kitchen seasoning chicken for dinner. He had left the force 2 years earlier to spend more time with his family, and days like this reminded him why that decision mattered. The doors were open, letting the warm air drift inside while Amina whispered to her flowers like they were old friends. Then everything shifted. A matte black SUV screeched into their driveway so fast that Amina flinched. Before she could stand, 3 people climbed out. 2 men in fake tactical gear, and in front of them, leading the charge like a self-appointed queen, was Trish Hafford. Not just any Trish. This one had a clipboard, sunglasses too big for her face, and a mouth that always seemed one insult away from a scream. She marched right up to Amina and announced loudly, "This neighborhood is now under the authority of the Crestview Residential Authority, and you are in multiple violations. We expect immediate compliance." Amina blinked. "Alliance? You just formed an HOA? You can't do that without consent from residents." Trish scoffed and waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "We posted the rules this morning. New landscaping standards, new lawn decor limits, new paint restrictions, and your property fails every single one. So consider this your first and final warning." Amina stood slowly, brushing dirt from her gloves. Her voice stayed calm. "That's not how HOAs work. You can't make up laws and expect people to obey them." That was the spark. Trish's face twisted. Her jaw clenched, and without thinking twice, she snarled, reached into her purse, and pulled out a small silver pistol. Stepping so close, Amina felt the cold barrel press against her forehead. "Do I look like I'm joking now?" Trish hissed. "Have you ever seen someone get so drunk on fake power that they actually pulled a gun on an innocent black woman just because she refused to follow their made-up HOA rules? What would you do if someone marched into your yard, pointed a weapon at your head, and claimed you were the one violating their neighborhood? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe nobody has the right to pull a gun on a family, especially on their own property, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because standing up to bullies starts with telling these stories. The cold metal against Amina's skin should have terrified her, but years of calm strength settled into her bones instead. She didn't flinch. She didn't scream. She simply lifted her eyes to Trish's trembling hand and said, steady as a heartbeat, "Brandishing a firearm without a permit is a felony. Do you even know what you're doing?" Trish's nostrils flared. Her grip tightened. Behind her, the 2 fake HOA enforcers shifted uneasily, clearly realizing they'd signed up for more than lawn citations and empty threats. One whispered, "Trish, maybe chill." "Shut up," she snapped, never taking her eyes off Amina. "This woman needs to learn her place. I am the head of this community now." Amina didn't move. Her hands remained at her sides, fingers lightly dusted with soil. Her voice stayed even, almost gentle. "Pointing a gun at a homeowner on their own property isn't authority. It's a crime. You're going to destroy your life over roses?" Trish pressed the pistol harder, spitting every word. "People like you don't get to talk back to me." And that was the moment everything changed. Inside the house, Jalen heard the shouting, the hostile tone, the panic hidden in Amina's voice. Training kicked in instantly. He rushed to the doorway, saw the gun, and froze for a split second as rage and instinct collided. Then he moved. He stormed onto the porch with the precision of a man who once wore a badge proudly. In one fluid motion, he drew his licensed handgun, held it steady, and pointed it directly at Trish's head. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a blade. "Drop the weapon. Now." Trish jerked, startled. Her finger twitched dangerously near the trigger. Jalen stepped forward, stance firm, breathing controlled. "You have 5 seconds. If I shoot, it's justified. If you pull that trigger, you are going to prison for life." Trish's eyes darted around wildly. The fake HOA cops backed away immediately, hands raised. One of them turned and bolted down the driveway. The other followed without hesitation, sprinting like a man who'd suddenly remembered he had a family to go home to. But Trish stood frozen. Jalen lowered his voice, lethal and calm. 5, 4. Amina remained still as stone, watching the woman who had just threatened her life begin to unravel. Trish's breath hitched. Sweat rolled down her temples. 3. Her wrist trembled. The gun wobbled. 2. Finally, her nerve broke. The pistol slipped from her hand and dropped into the grass. Jalen kicked it away and raised his phone. "Amina," he said, eyes still on Trish, "call the police." Trish's breath came out in short, broken bursts as the pistol clattered across the lawn. For the first time since she marched onto the property, her voice failed her. She stood trembling, fingers curled uselessly in the air, as if still trying to hold a gun that was no longer there. Amina didn't hesitate. She pulled out her phone, tapped the emergency dial, and stepped back just enough to put distance between herself and the woman who had just tried to terrorize her. Her voice was crisp, steady. "Yes, this is Amina Rowe. A woman just pointed a firearm at me in front of my home. She is disarmed and still on the property. I need officers dispatched immediately." Jalen kept his weapon trained on Trish, never blinking. He'd seen plenty of dangerous people in his career, but something about Trish's shaking, confused stare told him the truth. She was a bully who never expected real consequences, and now she was trapped in them. Trish swallowed hard. You can't call the police on me. I'm the head of the HOA." "There is no HOA," Jalen said. "What you did is felony assault with a deadly weapon. Be quiet." For once, Trish obeyed. Behind them, neighbors began stepping out onto porches, curiosity turning into shock as they spotted Trish standing in the yard with Jalen holding her at gunpoint. Trish's knees wobbled. This is all a misunderstanding." Jalen didn't even glance at her. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Far down the street, sirens began to rise. Slow at first, then louder and louder, until the whole block vibrated with the approaching squad cars. Trish took a small step backward, but Jalen stepped with her, matching her movement inch for inch. "Don't run," he warned. 2 police cars slid to a stop at the curb. Officers spilled out, hands on weapons, eyes assessing the scene. Jalen immediately lifted his gun into a safe position, kept both hands visible, and called out, "Retired officer, weapons secure, suspect disarmed." Trish's face crumpled. "Please," she whispered as the officers approached, "I didn't mean." But the handcuffs were already coming out. 2 officers moved in swiftly, positioning themselves on either side of Trish. One retrieved the discarded pistol with gloved hands and cleared it, shaking his head at the sight of the cheap, unregistered weapon. The other officer grabbed Trish's wrists and pulled them behind her back with no hesitation, the cuffs snapping shut with a metallic finality that echoed across the yard. Trish sputtered, eyes wet and wide. Wait, this is a mistake. I was enforcing regulations. I formed an HOA. I'm in charge here." The officer didn't even pretend to take her seriously. "Ma'am, you pointed a firearm at a homeowner. You're under arrest for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, attempted intimidation, and impersonating authority." Her face collapsed completely as the reality hit. "But they don't even follow the rules. This neighborhood needs order. I was trying to help." Amina stepped forward, crossing her arms, her voice calm but edged with steel. "You nearly killed me over flowers. Helping isn't what you were doing." As Trish was guided into the back of the patrol car, neighbors gathered in clusters, whispering, shocked, and relieved. Phones recorded everything. The arrest, the officers collecting statements, the fake HOA uniforms lying abandoned on the grass. Jalen gave his statement next. The officers recognized him immediately, a former colleague to some, a respected name in the precinct. Meanwhile, another patrol car circled the block in search of the two fake HOA enforcers who had run away. They didn't catch them that afternoon, but they did manage to confiscate the SUV. Trish arrived in. Inside it, police found printed violation notices, fake IDs, and a clipboard of addresses labeled targets. The truth was obvious. Trish Hafford had been planning a takeover of the neighborhood, using fear and fake authority to force residents into her imaginary HOA. But she picked the wrong home to start with. The sun dipped low, washing their yard in warm gold. A quiet, peaceful reminder that despite everything, justice still had a place in their world. And in this house, strength didn't shout. It stood firm, together. If you believe families deserve safety, respect, and peace in their own homes, then smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc. Trish came with a gun, but this family stood together, and justice followed.